Marathon Man, helping a couch potato become a triathlon Ironman winner. We compiled the stats of the winners of the Full Sail Ironman triathlon over the past 10 years, along with the stats of the helmets they use, the bikes they use, and the clothes that they wore. We also received the stats of the cost of the equipment and also the time cut in minutes by each equipment item. Then we compared the contestants' overall bike times, run times, swim times, transition one time, transition two time, and the overall winning time for each contestant. Then we looked at the type of equipment that each contestant used and their transition times to see just how much it made a difference in cutting the time. We looked at how much transition time one and two made a difference in each of the winners' times, and also how much time was cut by the bike, the helmet, and the clothes. And it seems that the time that was cut by the bike is what makes the biggest difference as far as time being cut. Then we compared and contrast each of the times of the different events, the transitions, and the time cut. And we tried to find out if there's correlation with these times and the winning time. We found out that the runtime had the greatest and the strongest correlation with a plus zero point 0.6 correlation, very strong positive correlation. So if you did really good on the run, then you had a greater probability of winning the race. Um, the bike time actually had a slightly negative correlation, which means that if you did slightly bad on the bike time, then you actually had a pretty decent chance of winning the race. Something that was kind of surprising to me at first was when I saw that the swim time had a fairly strong negative correlation. It was negative point 0.5, but when you think about it, the swimmers, if they did really, really good on the swimming, they probably over exhausted themselves coming out the gate, and the rest of the race really kind of got to them. So they didn't pace themselves on the swim. So it really kind of makes sense that that would be a negative zero point 0.5 correlation. The transition time one had a slightly positive correlation with a zero point 0.2. Um, Transition time two had a fairly strong, moderately strong correlation, which it makes sense because if you change clothes right before the last event, then it's kind of counting towards that last event. So if you can get changed and get on to the last event faster, then that helps your chances of winning. It looks like the clothes really didn't make that much of a difference. It was a negative correlation between the close and the winning time. So it looks like the people who spent the most on their clothes, the more you spent on clothes, the worse you probably did. Um, the time cut on the bike was slightly negative. The time that was cut on the helmet was also slightly negative. So it looks like those things where people were spending a lot of money on equipment didn't truly correlate to winning. It may have helped them in different events, but the overall winning, it didn't really help them. So, since the previous slide proved our couch potato right in the expense of equipment having a negative correlation in winning the race, um, and it still was a long shot of him placing, we just wanted to see what were the chances of him finishing the race in a decent standing, or even him finishing the race and placing? So we looked at the finishing times of each event for each of our winning contestants, along with the average overall finishing time for each year for every contestant that participated in the triathlon for that year. So we did a compilation of those. And when comparing the average finishing times to the average winning time, there was a pretty large gap between the two. So, although our couch potato might be able to finish the race in a decent standing, him or her placing, that is going to be a pretty big long shot.